Welcome to the weekly UAP report. This week we're taking a look at a spinning, fiery tic-tac filmed in France, an underwater object off the coast of Tenerife, a truly bizarre pulsating orb in Brazil, and more. But first, let's start with this amazing footage from political activist and author Charlie Kirk. So this video starts in the cockpit of the plane. Charlie Kirk is filming on his mobile phone. I think he's on a private jet because he's saying that he's flying back from Wisconsin on a friend's plane. And he's talking to the pilots about these strange orbs that they've been watching out of the cockpit. Then you can see these two orbs gradually appear and they look to be rotating around each other. If we zoom in here, you can really see them kind of moving around one another. And then the pilot looks at the radar and he says basically they're not showing on the radar at all, which is really weird. Obviously, if they were any commercial jet or if they were any kind of known aircraft, they would be appearing on the radar, but they're not. He also comments that they're flying really high. I think the plane is flying at approximately 40,000 feet, and the pilot thinks that these things are flying around 80 to 100,000 feet, which is really high, much higher than any conventional aircraft that we would see. He also rules out the likelihood of them being satellites just because of the way they're moving. They're clearly not satellites. Satellites just don't move in that way. And you can just hear that the pilots are just really perplexed by what they're seeing. The really interesting thing is this isn't the first time I've seen this kind of phenomena out of the cockpit of a plane. About 2 months ago I put a video out showing a very similar thing on a commercial airliner where the two pilots were filming these, again, two orbs on the horizon flying around each other, kind of dancing with each other, fading in and out of view for quite an extended period of time. And again, you could hear the pilots talking and they had no idea what they were looking at. This was not something that they've experienced before. I think this is probably one of the most compelling and interesting UAP videos I've seen in ages. I mean, there is just no explanation of what these are. We've got a professional pilot here sitting there saying that he has no idea what he's looking at. And again, this isn't the first time I've seen this kind of thing. So I'm just super interested with this one. Okay, so now on to this video that was posted on Twitter. It's apparently outside an Air Force base in Indiana, and you can see, ignore the two kind of like weird little shining dots on the screen. I think that's just like reflection from the camera lens, but you can see these orangey reddy coloured orbs in the background that appear and then kind of disappear. It looks weird, almost as though the one at the back is disappearing and then there's one at the front that's reappearing, and it's kind of going on almost like a chain. It's kind of like going on and on like that. And then after a few moments you can see another one appears below and moving in the opposite direction, but in the same manner, with this weird kind of almost chain-like reaction of the lights lighting up and turning off. You can hear the people watching are really confused and surprised by what they're seeing. This obviously isn't something they've seen before. Despite the fact they live near an Air Force base, you'd expect them to probably witness some kind of weird aerial phenomena from time to time, but this seems to be very new to them. And then they just vanish completely. This one's really weird. Again, I don't know what I'm looking at here. I can't figure out. It does not look like any aircraft. It could be maybe flares or something potentially, but I just don't know how flares would light up in that kind of sequential order. Seems like a strange order for them to light up. Yeah, this one, again, I just have no idea what I'm looking at. It's so strange. Alright, so I love this one. This one was shot over Florida with somebody looking out over the sea. I think they were filming, there's a storm in the background that you can see happening, so I think that's what they were filming. And if you blink you'll miss it, but you'll see this very, very quick darting white thing just fly past the camera at absolutely incredible speed. And then if they slow it down then, and you can see it streak past in a second. There we go. And you can see it's obviously like it's probably a small object and it's streaking. It looks like a line, but that's just because of the frame rate being slowed down. But it's traveling at incredible speed, and it sounds like it's definitely there in the scene, because you can hear the cameraman say, "Whoa, did you see that shoot across?" And you can see everybody reacting to it. It was obviously a really unexpected, weird thing. This thing moves at such speed. It can't be a drone, because I really don't think there are drones that move that quickly and silently with zero noise. It's definitely not a plane. It's moving way too quickly. It's not a helicopter or anything like that. It's nothing that we would explain through conventional methods. It's a really, really fast moving object. There was a video recently, which I'll dig out and I'll show hopefully on the screen in a second, which was of a similar kind of object hovering over a city, and you can kind of see it really quickly. It starts by hovering, and then it very quickly just takes off and flies across the horizon at incredible speed. The camera kind of pans with it, and at first I thought, because the camera starts panning as soon as the object moves, I thought, is that just a smudge on the lens, potentially, where the camera's panning and you can see the object moving along with it? But if you look carefully, you can see the object actually starts to move closer to the right hand side of the screen, which means that it's probably moving faster than the camera's panning. And it just kind of reminded me of this Florida object, because they both move at such insane speed and apparently in a straight line. I wonder what they are. I've just got no idea. All right, this one's a cool one. At first I thought this was just a satellite, because it looks very much like a satellite. You can see a starry sky in the background. You can see this thing moving across the sky. But when it zooms in here, you can see there's actually like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roughly of them moving along, and they seem to be moving together and apart. They're definitely not satellites. There's no way that's a satellite, but it's moving incredibly fast. It looks like it's moving incredibly high as well. It looks like it's probably, you know, in the sort of stratosphere. It's not you know, sort of a plane's altitude by the looks of it. Here's another look of it going past. It just seems so strange. It does look like initially it does look like a satellite, but when you look at that zoomed in view, you can see there's 4 of them. You see 2 of them move out from each side, and then they move back towards each other. What on earth is that? I mean, come on, what is that? Here we have got a tic-tac, which is kind of almost becoming like the staple UFO sighting at the moment, because there seem to be so many of them about. But this is a really good sighting of one. It seems to be the sort of typical tic-tac shape. It's even white like a tic-tac. It's kind of cylindrical, and you can just see it kind of moving fairly slowly across the sky. At first I thought, is that just a plane? It could be a plane potentially, because the camera's not very good. It's a bit shaky. It's zoomed in quite a bit. It's not the clearest picture. It could be some kind of aircraft, but it does look a little bit fat to be an aircraft. It's a bit kind of bulky. It doesn't look right. It looks strange. But the thing for me is it's not manoeuvring in a really bizarre way, which I think is always the weirdest thing about UAP. The ones that we've just watched, for example, flying across the sky in Florida, that to me is incredibly weird. This one is kind of floating at a relatively steady pace, so I could imagine it being something more conventional, but nonetheless it's really interesting. All right, and staying with the tic-tac theme, this one is from France. It's another tic-tac, but this one I think is more interesting. It's a bright orangey, almost kind of fiery colour that you can see kind of floating into view there. As you watch it, you kind of see it starting to move in kind of slightly strange ways. At first it kind of flies behind these trees, and then you'll see in a minute it kind of stops, and then it kind of starts to do this weird spinny kind of motion. There you go, look, it's spinning round. I don't know what that is. That's really odd. And then it just dives down, ducks down behind the trees. Again, I thought maybe this could be a drone, because it does move almost like a drone would, but there's no sound at all on this video. There's in the background, you can hear the people commenting on it and reacting to it, but there's no engine sound. And drones always make a noise. If you've ever heard one, you know, even if they're quite far away, you can always hear that humming. And there's no sound at all from this one. Also, it doesn't to me look like the shape of a drone. It's kind of it's too long. It's moving in that kind of weird kind of spinning motion. Yeah, I don't know what this one is. It looks really strange. Okay, so now for something a little bit different. This is a USO this time, so it's a underwater submerged object. And you can see there's this kind of light. This was apparently filmed off of the coast of Tenerife. You see this light under the water, which then turns off. That's the strange thing. It turns off, and you can see it seems to kind of turn off and move at the same time quite rapidly before vanishing completely. Let's watch it again. It's interesting, because I think at first I thought, this looks like it's probably just a scuba team or something like that. I know they do kind of nighttime scuba tours and stuff like that with tourists. Maybe it's just that. But when the light kind of vanishes and it does that weird skipping thing, that looks strange to me. And also the other question I would have is, why would you turn off your lights in the pitch black sea? Like, I can't see why anybody would want to do that, unless they were, I don't know, looking at like a a glow-in-the-dark fish or something like that, but I can't imagine that's the thing. So this is a weird one. I think it probably is something terrestrial. It's probably just a scuba team or something like that, but nonetheless interesting. What do you think it could be? Okay, and this is my favourite sighting this week. I think it was filmed in Brazil. I'm not sure when. I think it was probably quite recently, potentially, but correct me if I'm wrong. If you've seen it before, I apologise. But look at this. It's like a really bright pulsating orb with these two kind of almost, they look like arms of kind of energy emitting from the sides of it. Look at that. It looks so strange. I just cannot figure out what would cause that. It's so weird, and the colours of it are just so strange. It's not the colour of an aircraft light. It's too purpley, and it's kind of in sort of a weird iridescent kind of like purpley reddy glow, and these weird arms, these energy arms emitting out from the side, to me are just really bizarre. This one's really captured my attention, because I mean, what on earth is that? That's just nuts. Alright, so that is all of the sightings for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this dive into the crazy UAP stuff going on around the world over the last week. If you enjoyed the video, please do like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to make sure you're notified of future videos, and I'll hopefully see you here next week for the same thing. Until next time.